Hi everybody, this is Ken again. Wanted to pick back up on my testimony, and I think where I'd left off in the last piece was beginning to talk about this ministry and how I became involved in it. I will tell you that much like I talked about in the last part, it is another evidence of God pursuing me, of Him always showing up in the moments that I need Him, and in so many moments where it's unexpected. And it is just exactly like when I talked about being placed in a Christian accounting firm and going to hospitals that I was running and having administrative teams around me who were such devoted lovers of God. And then when I began the second part of my career working in healthcare IT and doing more consulting type work, again, always being surrounded by people who knew that relationship, but also being surrounded by people who were different than me. And growing up, that wasn't something that happened a whole lot. It is very much in a southern cultural environment, at least in the past. It is changing, as I think we have, as a country, have become a whole lot more integrated, meaning that people have moved from different areas of the country, and so you get different viewpoints and different differing backgrounds. That has become less and less. But certainly early on, I went to church with people who looked like me, who thought like me, who acted like me, all of those different things. And so that second half of my career, being able to work in organizations where not only was God still placing around me the people who had these Christian Bible-based beliefs and faith, but I was also being able to see around me those that were different. What that helped me with, two things. I would say the first thing would be, I talked about my first marriage ending and the things that I did that I felt were so horrible. And they were. Having an affair, wouldn't suggest it. But that, because up until that moment, I was so self-righteous and so judgmental of other people. That moment and the years that followed, those I'd say 4 or 5 years that followed, really helped me to understand that I'm no better than anybody else. It also helped me to understand that everyone has a background that creates in them how they behave, what they know, what they do, and to be far more accepting of that, because if I'd have talked to you before having the affair, I would have told you that person is scum and there's no hope for them. Now you live it and you begin to understand, oh my gosh, what the heck was I thinking being that harsh on people, because you're just a moment away from the same sin, a moment away from the same mistake, a moment away. And every one of us, it doesn't matter. God's grace is sufficient for everyone. And it helped me to become far less judgmental, to not think about things. When I would meet people and I would hear, this is my background and I've done these things. This is me currently and I'm doing this thing. To just not worry about it. To not care. Because in my heart, and again, I think this is God continually pursuing me, I knew that they deserved love just like I wanted. And there was nothing that was making them not sufficient for that, or was making them, putting them in a place where they weren't capable of receiving it. And so I always had this understanding from that point that there was an acceptance. That you can't discard people. Just because they're different from you, you can't discard people. And I would say that more than just not discarding people, the second thing was that they needed to be shown acceptance and love, because that's what I wanted, because it was easy for me to understand I'm not perfect. And in that, you just want somebody to say it's going to be okay. You won't do that again. You'll be different. You can be different. It can be different. And I love you regardless. And so it's more than not discarding people. It's also about an acceptance and love of those individuals and their differences. And I think I say all those things because, again, along the way, God's always placing people in my path. And it's interesting, the way I was introduced to this ministry was extremely unexpected, which is the way God acts and behaves most of the time. His experience with us is not what we anticipate. And I had moved out, I think, from my second marriage, moved out, and had moved into an apartment. I was scared. I was alone. I was afraid. So much fear. I'm in a position where I looked back over my life and I'd never been really by myself and alone. How am I going to handle this? Struggling through it. And in a random moment, going to the clubhouse here to get coffee, I run into two people. And that's Gabby and Katie. Don't know them. But it was interesting because I had done a lot of work in personal therapy that had got me to a point where I'd become far more transparent. And we had a conversation where I shared more than I would have ever shared in my past about who I was, why I was there, what was going on. And it was interesting. We didn't go down a path of talking about that in detail. But it was also like an understanding that, hey, I just shared this crap. And nobody judged me. Nobody jumped me. Nobody was like, what are you thinking? Why is... And it was concern. I saw love. I saw acceptance in that moment. And we didn't really interact a whole lot. And I am here struggling in my apartment, trying to figure out, okay, who am I? Who do I want to be? And I'm gravitating to what I know. And in that moment, I was still on this spiritual journey of working with law of attraction and things like that. But something was telling me, hey, why don't you come back and let's re-examine this relationship with God. And I remember out of the blue almost, I get this text from Gabby that says, hey, Sunday morning, we do this service and there's a sermon. And if you've got a chance, let's watch, feel free, tune in, watch it. I was actually getting ready to go on a trip. I was like, oh, okay, fine. Had no real intention of watching, but something led me to do it. And I can remember I watched it while I packed to leave because I knew I was going to leave as soon as it was over. And it was different than anything I'd seen before. It was a message that seemed to come directly from the heart, and it had an impact because what I saw in that service was individuals who were chasing God and that relationship with Him, and then being faithful in doing what He had called them to do. And so from that, there began this opportunity to have more of a relationship, to have more conversation. And I can tell you that in just the first few minutes of being able to sit down with Gabby and have a conversation with her, the first thing that came to my mind, and what's interesting about this, because I think it's been said by other people, was she is chasing after God's heart. And the first person that came to my mind was David from the Bible. And I could just sense it. Everything about her was God first. And one of the things that she and I have talked about a lot, because we do Bible study together now, is I just want all of Him and none of me. All of Him and none of me. Let me be a vessel. And I see that clearly, not just in her, but I see that in Kate. I see that in Hope. And that is something that I had not seen in any church or ministry environment, because it had become so much of the flesh. Yeah, we're doing God's work, but we have to do it this way. And we have to do it this way because it's the way it's supposed to be done. And it's all worldly things that are creeping in. But to see people who are solely focused on reading, praying, listening, and when they hear God's voice, when they see His direction, when they know what He's doing around them and what the will is, there's no hesitation. There's just an immediate, let's go, let's do, let's say, whatever it is being asked. Once that's known, there's just no hesitation to get involved. And I think I'd spoken earlier about the Experiencing God Bible study, which I picked up by myself to start through again. And I think I told you the first time I went through it, what I got was there's a relationship. And I'd missed the whole part about how to have that relationship. Well, what I was seeing is what I was studying. That's what He wanted, was a constant looking in His Word, looking around you, praying and listening, letting the Holy Spirit guide you to hear what is He doing around you, and then go get involved. And in getting involved, that's how you show your love. That's how you show you love Him. And then, because of that love relationship, you have all this to give to others. And That's what I see in this ministry, is I see a group of people who want to get out of God's way and let Him do what He has planned. And we are all just honored that we're the vessels that He works through at times, because we understand it's not us, it's Him. And you can only get there by surrendering. You can only get there by giving up what you think you know and letting Him show you truth. And then you experience it. An example in this ministry is around New Year's, I began writing down some things that I wanted to do. And it was in my, I believe it was partly me, and I believe it was partly God, because, I mean, yes, I prayed about it, but I also had my own still law of attraction self in it. And the example I'll give is one of the things that I wrote and put up on the wall was to sing, because it's something I'd done in the past and it's something that I love to do. And we had began to develop friendships among ourselves, and we had gotten together and we were going out to eat, I think, one night. And all of a sudden, I get this, because I'm obviously being prompted to sing, but then I believe it was Hope, and in the car, looks at me and says, "So let me ask you a question again. When are you going to pick up a microphone and sing?" And it was out of nowhere. And my first immediate reaction was, why are you going to ask me something like that? But then I remembered, I sat down and took the time to try to listen and figure out what I wanted to do and what God was leading me to do. And that's on the wall. I wrote down, sing. And I was, within 3 days, singing. And that, I think, is my own testimony of beginning to learn to listen, because God is prompting me, and then seeing the circumstances and the people around me and seeing the opportunity where He says, "We talked about this. Now here it is. Are you going to be faithful and go do it?" And when you are able to experience that and do that, because that is experiencing a relationship with God. I like this. Oh, you want me to do this? Well, let's go do this. You begin to understand the depth of that love, and it builds trust. And as you build trust, it becomes easier and easier and easier to submit and surrender, and to know just how much you are loved. I have experienced freedoms from so many things in just the past 2 or 3 months. And being able to experience God working through me, guiding me to the next step, telling me, hey, here's something I'm doing, and then getting involved in whatever way I can, and just seeing how He provides. And it's not just for me, because I see the ministry that's going out to others and how it's impacting them. People who have never understood that they can't get far enough away from God, that He won't pursue them, catch them, and bring them back home. And people who feel like, yeah, he can't love me now because I've done this. I can tell you He can. I can tell you He does. It's not just that He can, He does. It's freely given. There are things that are no doubt. They are already taken care of. Our forgiveness, the forgiveness for our sin, that is a done deal. It was done on the cross. When Jesus carried them there, died, was buried, and resurrected. We have salvation. We have forgiveness of sin. The only question is whether you accept it. It's receiving. You don't have to do anything for it except recognize it's there. Thank Him for it. And just, I guess, accept that it's there. Let it, yeah, I see it. You did that for me. Thank you, and accept it. So many things are like that. They're freely given. And we've made it so hard. And it's not hard. It's really simple. Because it is a relationship. And one of the things that I am learning, and one of the things that I hope that over the course of my involvement in this ministry that we continue to let people know, is it is a relationship. And the one that you have with your kids, the one that you have with your parents, the one you have with your best friend, the one you have with your wife, it's no different. And those are opportunities to experience heaven on earth, because that's who He wants to be. He wants to be your Father, your friend. And He's there, just waiting. And so it's been an amazing experience. I keep covering this mic up. It's been an amazing experience, and I am so excited that I am a part of this ministry and watching some of the things that we are doing, some of the things that God has led us to, the way that He is speaking, the way that we literally don't know day to day what might happen, because it is that kind of ministry of, it's a new day. Yesterday happened. We have to do something today. Father, please show us, whether it's in your word, through what's going on around us, but let us know what it is. And then we get together and we go figure out a way to go get it done. And that makes this ministry special, and it makes me so happy and grateful to be here. And it is humbling, because if I look at where I have come from, it would be easy to say I don't deserve to be a part. And I will tell you, having said that, what I would say to anyone watching is to know that that's not God's desire. It's not for you to look and judge yourself and go, I can't be a part. Because He always wants you to be a part. He always wants to love you. He always wants to use you. And it's just accepting it and surrendering. And for all the things that I tried to do on my own, another testimony that I would give, trying to unravel, if you will, all the things from my past, the thinking that I did, the way that I kept getting into making bad decisions. A lot of therapy to try to overcome codependency, thinking that I'm not a whole person, that I need somebody's acceptance to make me feel okay. Once I found that truth that God loves me and allowed myself to begin to surrendering, what therapy couldn't do in a year and a half got done in a matter of days. There is freedom and there is safety in that. And I hope that you hear that and know it and come to know it. That's my desire for you. That's God's desire for you. Thank you.